That's actually a pretty thick seal. Looks like about a 1/4 inch, roughly. Can't get the old, well, it's either, I'm either going to kind of roll it up and out of there, or it's going to kind of crumble and just more like go to pieces, looks like. Yeah. Huh. Okay, there's a little, that's part of the O-ring that goes inside the thing. Well, there's another piece. Pretty much explains why it was leaking so bad. And another piece. And it's literally falling out. And there's that. Okay, that's got the old seal out of the thing. At least with it having that internal rubber O-ring in there, that kind of gives me a rough idea. But I'm going to take this to that. Back last winter I rebuilt a lot of cylinders off that one big disc, and in fact, actually the same crumbler that I'm working on right here, all the lift cylinders. And that one farm store I work with, that guy was able to take and match everything I needed up, so we'll take that back to him. I just threw the end cap, this old wiper, and I'm going to grab what's left of that internal seal right here, that main pressure seal, put that in the bucket, and put the packing here back on the ram. I'm just going to take this and this here up to that little farm store, and that way he can just measure everything, get everything I need. And like I say, down here on the end, this end cap here on the barrel, I'm not messing with it. It wasn't leaking, and so leave that one go as is. Well, we are back again. And like they say on the Barbecue Pit Boys YouTube channel, through the miracle of time, we have gotten some new seals. But it is several days later, and that little store got my seals and everything like that in. And so now I'm going to show you on how I get this thing put back together. Okay, get you sit there. Right there, that's the O-ring and the backup ring for the end cap. That's that part right there, and this seal right here is for the packing inside. So right there's the main seal, that's the ram seal. That's the one that was leaking when I went to fold the thing up, and that's the one that fell apart in a bunch of pieces. We'll get these end cap seals popped off here. When you're doing this, make sure that you put the new ones on the same way. And of course the backup ring, which is what that little white one was, is going to go here on the outside, and the regular O-ring will go on top of that. And same thing when you go to put the new ones back on. This here is the backup ring. Lots of times these backup rings will be directional. I'm not too sure how well you can see that on camera. You can't get the light to kind of, but you can see it's kind of like a little rounded cutout shape on the one side. Their side's flat. This side's rounded, and that's so that the O-ring can kind of seat into it. And so we'll get that and drop down in there like that. Come on. There we go. Okay, that's got him on. And now the regular O-ring will just go right around on top of that one. That's got him on. Like I say, just make sure you take it off, put everything on the same way you took it off. Now, sometimes, now this old one, it doesn't really have a cutout in it. Maybe just a bit, but it's really hard to tell. But yeah, just make sure you keep an eye out on that with those backup rings. That you make sure you get them put on out here toward the outside. Well, depending on how it's set up, and also look to see if it is directional or not for the regular O-ring to actually seat down into it. Now that we're done with those outer rings down here, here's your piston ring. And that guy is going to seat right down in here. These are directional also. Not too sure how well you can see that. But you can see right there, it's got that little bit of a lip. And looking through there, it kind of flares out right here. And you want that flare facing in. This here's the outside of the cylinder. And you want it facing in. That way the oil pressure is actually pushing against this side. And so that's going to go right down in there like that. And you know what? I'm going to go grab my heat gun. Sometimes you got to warm these up to help them flex in a little bit better. Just don't get that thing too hot that ends up messing it up. But you want to warm it up enough, that way it just makes it a lot more flexible, because it's kind of got to go down in there, then kind of pop back out into that groove. Alright, that got him warmed up. And sometimes they can, even after you warm them up, they can still kind of have a tendency to go in a little stiff. But you just got to keep working at it. You can poke down there. Just be careful if you're using a pick like this, that you don't go and actually poke a hole in that. If you're using a 90 degree, just actually use the 90 part to push down, that little elbow part. Now, that works good too. Oh, come on. Okay. Okay, I think that should have it. Just kind of gotta keep working it, that way it'll pop down in there a little bit easier. Sometimes I have taken, maybe I should have, vegetable oil. But yeah, like I say, just take a 9 degree pick like that, and then you just use this back side of it and run that rounded corner around there like that. That'll just help seat him in. And it should work out just fine. Okay, there we got it. Okay, yeah, you can kind of see it down in there just a little bit. That black ring. And so, yeah, like I say, those piston seals are also directional as well, so just make sure you get it put in with the flared side facing toward the inner part of the cylinder, and you're good to go. Okay, now we'll set this over here. I still have to put the wiper into it. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do that now. And then we'll be ready to take and put the new seals onto the packing ring. I just took this thing here over to the press and pressed that little wiper in. All that does, it just, when the cylinder is extended out and you got like a bunch of dusty stuff and dirt on that kind of stuff, that just just helps knock the dirt and dust off. That way it doesn't get pulled back in and start chewing up your main oil seal here inside. And so, but about the best way, like I say, the best way I found to put these in is to get them lined up good and straight and use a press. Actually, that way you can press straight down, all one constant push. Otherwise, it's hard to get, if you try and use a hammer, it's almost impossible to try and get that to go in straight. And it's a good way to bend it. Here is the packing block. You got that ring right there. And surprisingly, he was actually able to find that. They got at that farm store. He was able to get me a new one of these. You got that. And then you have the main seal. This here's the old one. And sometimes them things can be pretty tough to get popped off there. Well, let's see here. Yeah, I can't take and tighten him up in the vise. Yeah, there we go. Now that we're in the vise, and keep him held down. Yep. Okay, there we go. Alright, right there it is. And these here have like an internal O-ring inside of them. It sits inside that groove right there. Now that actually didn't look too bad, but I told him if he could get it, go ahead and get me a new one. And he was able to find both the seal and that, well, I can't call it like a safety ring. It just, it's what this block piece kind of rides on as it goes up and down inside the barrel. Right, here's the new packing seal. They can kind of warm him up just a little bit. Like I say, that does help to take and let them pop over that a little bit easier. Keep from burning my fingers. Okay, that should go right around there just like that, in that groove, and kind of stretch him out and pop him down over just like that. Yeah, there we go. Snap it right in place. I did grab my jug of veggie oil just in case I needed it, but that actually went on there a whole lot easier than what I thought. So the next thing is this snap ring deal right there, and that's just going to go right around like that, clip in place, and you can see it's got a little bit of a gap right there. So, alright, that's got the packing rebuilt. Alright, now we're ready to put the packing piece here on the ram. Also, I've already put it on here. It's just a simple little O-ring. But there's a little O-ring that goes on right there. And of course, these packing pieces, they are directional. There's a little groove right there. So this side here goes in, and that's what that little O-ring seats into. Just like that. Of course, it'll pull on down once I put the lock nut onto it. Spin the lock nut on the end, just like that. Okay, now I gotta get my torque wrench ready to take and torque it down. I just set the pallet off and backed up a couple feet, and usually how I go about getting these packing nuts tightened down, take your end yoke piece here and put it over your fork. That way the other end is laying on the opposite fork. And now you're ready to take and start tightening it up, and that end down there will hold it. So I'm going to get my torque wrench and socket and we'll get that tightened up. Got my torque wrench set to 150. That's a pretty big ram, so we'll take and tighten him down good. Okay, we seated in right there, so we know that O-ring is good to go. Now, we'll just take and pull down on it. And that should be 150. I will say, however, that thing actually came off pretty hard when I went to pull it off. And we're definitely not going to break anything. Let's take and change something up right quick. We're going to crank that thing up to 200. All right, we're getting closer. That should be approximately 200. Looks like more like 205. There we go. Double click it a couple times. All right, that's got him down to 200 foot-pounds. Well, guys, don't do what I just did. I forgot to put the end cap on. That always helps. This has to go on before that packing goes on. I forgot to throw that thing on there until I just... Okay, there we go. Right here, I'm going to take and throw a little bit of veggie oil on. It'll help that seal want to pop on there easier. I'll throw a little bit on in here. Vegetable oil will not make those seals expand in case there's any kind of expansion. Regular either motor oil or hydraulic oil, that kind of stuff, it can actually cause your seals to want to swell up, and it's that much harder to get it on. If you saw my videos when I was putting the sleeves into the 4840, come on, get on there. I used vegetable oil on that. Well, it's definitely sealing up a whole lot tighter than what it did before, I can tell you that much. There we go, finally. Okay, now we're ready to put the packing seal back on. Just like that. Got my torque wrench back onto it. Now ready to snap it down. Should be good to go this time. Give it a few extra snaps for good measure. Now we're ready to go. Okay, now I got to take and put this here back into the barrel and start tightening it up. Got it laid out here on the pallet. Now for right here, I'm going to take a little bit of veggie oil and we'll just take and put that right around on that packing seal. That'll help it to pop inside that barrel housing a whole lot easier. May even take and run just a dab. Come on. Yeah, throw a little bit inside. There we go. And you want to make sure the end of the barrel is up against something solid. And so I've got it pushed back against the one fork. Okay. Now I'm going to, I got my sledgehammer right here along with a block of wood. I'm going to take and kind of set, something about like that, roughly. Or kind of set you back off out of the way. Kind of a wide angle view of it. Now I'm going to use a bigger sledgehammer and a block of wood here on the end, on the yoke, to take and help knock that packing into the barrel. I thought. There we go. Okay, there you can see it's got it started in there. Well, you probably saw that where it's sitting at. But yeah, I just take and hold that block of wood across the end of the yoke. And start hammering on it. Okay, now that we got it started in there, I want to take and shove this end cap back down to the barrel, because I do not want to drive, come on. I don't want to drive the thing all the way in, because it's got to be out in order to go back onto the crumbler to remount it. And that way the pins line up. Oh boy. Now that I got this end cap back up against here, see if I can set you right there. Now I'm taking, put a block of wood up against it. Take and start getting that knocked back into the barrel. Like that. Hopefully that didn't jar you too much. Okay. That got punched back in there. Same thing here. I also took veggie oil and put around those O-rings. And so that's got the cap on. Now, we're ready to start putting these draw bolts down. Sometimes what they'll have is a, it'll basically have like a jam nut on each end. This one here, it's got a jam nut down here. It's actually welded on the end of it. And so, just a little different style. I'm going to get all four of these put in. We'll get them tightened up. I got all four draw bolts started. Okay. And whenever I tighten these up, well, the ones that have the four bolts, the four draw bolts, I'll take and tighten them on an angle. So I just snug that top one down. I'm going to go over here to this bottom one. And that way, it helps pull everything down even. Okay, now I just got to jump back and forth, finish tightening them up, and we'll be good to go. Now we're back out here at the crumbler. I just got to get everything all lined up and get the hydraulic lines dropping into place. Okay, there we go. Gonna get it dug up off the top there. The other end keeps wanting to slide down. There we go, finally. Get the hoses hooked up here, and we'll move down to the other end and get that pin in, and then this thing's going to be ready to roll for springtime. Get that fitting to spin on there just right. All right, there's one. Here's the second one. There we go. Now this one right here, I was able to take and push or pull the cylinder out all the way, and that got that pivot hole to line up. There we go. All right, we're in. I'll grab my pry bars. I'll pop that C-clip onto it. Like I say, these little snap ring deals, since they do not have a hole for a snap ring plier, I just take two pry bars, kind of catch right there on each end, and then just pry against each other, and it'll open that clip up, and you can pop it back on the shaft or on your pin, about like that. Unless it should fly off and go out in the grass somewhere and you lose it. There we go. It don't fit real tight, but it drops down that groove. It can't go anywhere. Get the last hydraulic fitting on. It's going to be ready to roll. Literally. There's that. Okay guys, well, that's got for this video. So I'm going to call this an end. The cylinder's fixed, we're ready to go, and as far as everything else, we should be good to go. As far as bearings, I put all new bearings in all the baskets just last year, and so they're all good to go for this year. And the other crumbler, it's good to go as far as cylinders and everything like that. And anyway, we should be ready to go for spring. So take care, thanks all for watching, we'll see you next time.